Hello, traders, and welcome to the weekend update here for Sunday, February 25th. So I first want to walk through our current open positions, and yeah, there's a couple in here that are problems. So this one right here, the diagonal, we were whipsawed horribly in that, and as soon as you adjusted, or as soon as I adjusted for downside movement, then we got that massive upside movement. It's not even displaying properly right now because this call, the data is too inconsistent. The bid-ask spreads are too wide. That said, if I click on this particular Analyze tab, it will show me what that looks like. And this is going to expire at essentially a max loss on this trade, unless there's some big massive sell-off on Monday. I'm not expecting that. So, I hate it when this happens, but it is part of trading. And, I'm going to go back, and after this thing expires, I will go back, and when I put it down in the archives, I'm going to do a recap of it. I always like to try to see, is there anything I can learn from this trade? I don't know the answer to that yet. I feel like there's not, that it was just a whipsaw situation, but I do want to dig into it deeper and get a good grasp on that. Now, the other one that I can't even get consistent quotes for is the NVIDIA calendar. Again, we're just too far away. What I'd like to see here on NVIDIA, because these expire on Monday, so it's either there's a big sell-off Monday or there's not. And if there's a big sell-off Monday, maybe this can be redeemed in some way, but highly unlikely. In the case of NVIDIA, this doesn't expire until Friday, so there is a chance if we get a little pullback in NVIDIA, basically that pullback would potentially allow us, if NVIDIA pulled back 30 points, which is not out of the realm of possibility for NVIDIA, we could potentially get out of this at a profit, or we could sell a put or put spread against the long put that is still in place there. So that's the couple possibilities on those trades that are currently in trouble. And then, this one, similar thing. It was a whipsaw situation. The market was all the way down here, 49.50, looking to make a plummet to the downside. And then, of course, NVIDIA announced their earnings, and next thing you know, we're up here. And because of the gap and run, there just wasn't really much of any place to adjust in the meantime. That's my sense of it. Again, once this expires, I'll go back and do a replay on this one as well. But again, we may get a pullback here. It's not out of the realm of possibility that, over a day or two that we might be able to pull back 40, 50 points and at least reduce some of the pain in this one. But you'll notice that all of our problems are upside problems. And I guess to the favorable side, this one was put on with no upside risk, so there's no problems if our market continues higher. This one, similar. I'll probably look at maybe even trying to take this off this week. We're not going to get any more out of this. So at this point, we've kind of squeezed everything I can on it. And to show you what that means or what that looks like, let me just pull this up. And, if I were to try to roll wings in on this, you'll see that essentially there's nothing to be gained by doing this. If I were to do this, I'm going to pick up a nickel. So it just doesn't benefit me to try to fight that. I'm going to spend approximately that or close to that in commissions, and I end up in essentially the same exact position. And even if I try to come in further, maybe I try to roll these wings in, quite a bit further, again, I still end up in the same position essentially. So, obviously we can't trade 7 cents on SPX. It's got to be a nickel, or 10 cents, and it's going to be a nickel. So there just isn't anything really to be gained in these at this point. As a result of that, I will look to close this out, and I'll have to probably take it out in pieces because we are so far away from these current strikes. So I'll have to sell it off a spread at a time and I'll look to deal with it that way. And so this, we should be able to close this out in around the 10% profit range. Now, this trade, of course, was just recently opened. We've only been in this 10 days. And because we got a good entry on this on a pullback, I like this one. We should be able to roll this right wing up a number of times on this. This one's going to be a little problematic. It is at max loss to the upside because it expires this next week. There's not really much time to adjust this, and we're just too far away to adjust it. So this one's probably going to set and wait for maybe a little pullback if we get it. The butterfly here, it is very fortunate that we pulled off 2 more flies when our market sold off down to here. That was the game plan, expecting to bounce back up. Had those 2 not been pulled off, and lock those in or close those out, we would be probably at some loss in here. This would be dipping down quite a bit more. I want to take the same approach here. If we get a little bit of a pullback into here, I'll probably look too thin again. If we pull back into here, we're going to be up around $1,500 or so in the trade. And I would look to maybe thin out another 1 or 2 butterflies there. And again, just kind of keep harvesting off of this. Right now, we're at about 8% profitability in that. And, we've got another month to go on it. I don't carry it to expiration, so we've got at least another 2 weeks. This one should have good room on it, should be decaying in here. Again, I don't know that we'll get a much more of a blast to the upside, but even if we do, I made sure that I had some headroom over here at around that, all the way up to the 520 range. And if we look at our market, well, this is SPX, of course. We gapped up, we ran, and then we ran a little further the next day, but then pulled back. We actually closed down slightly here on Friday. At least the futures did. The SPX closed essentially flat. If we look at SPY, which is what that particular trade was in, remember SPY, I gave it room based on the fact that we had run in, I believe it was 20-point increments previously. I gave this thing, 20 plus points from the last pullback, which puts us up here in around the 515 range. So my expectation is, given the waves that we've been rolling in, that we probably wouldn't hit 520 here this next week. At least that's my thought, and that's why I do have that little bit of an upside call spread in the SPY trade. If we take a look at RUT is kind of right smack in the middle of a range. Again, on our RUT trade, I would like to see us pull back a little bit, but here on Monday, Tuesday, if we remain in this area, remain a little bit higher even, I may start to look at an adjustment here. That adjustment could be maybe reducing just one of the spreads on this side. It could be a potential complete movement of the underlying tent. I could also maybe just buy a closer in call spread that would hold this right side up a little better. All of those are possibilities that I'll be taking a look at. Now, I also want to take a look at volatility. Let's take a look at the VIX. And we can see that, of course, after our sell-off last week, and then even this week, just going into NVIDIA earnings, our market or the volatility spiked up. Then, of course, right after the NVIDIA earnings, volatility fell out a fair amount. But I have to say, I'm a little surprised that volatility hasn't sold off a little more, given how hard our market moved up. This is telling me that there's still a little bit of nervousness out there, if you will. There's still people that are thinking there might be more of a pullback. The fact that this is not down here in 12, 13 range. We're certainly not high in volatility or VIX, but we just haven't come back as far as I would have thought. When we're making all new highs, but yet VIX is not back down in this range, that's telling me that people are sensing a little bit of potential fear out there. So we'll have to see how that ends up playing out. And then circling back to SPY one more time, let's just look at the volume on SPY. So on that big NVIDIA news, the big up day, we did end up having some decent volume there. Then on Friday, volume was off a little. That's not abnormal. Volume often tends to be a little lower on Fridays. People, tend to take off early, etc. So I'm not reading too much into the fact that this was a little lower on Friday, and I would like to see a little more about what the market shows us next week. So that is the weekend wrap up at this point. Obviously, again, the headliner here is, whipsaw, and just trying to maintain some semblance of order in our positions. Again, I want my focus to continue to be, although I got, a little bit sidetracked on a couple of these, I want the focus to continue to be these types of trades. So they're longer duration trades. You notice that the very low delta, so our market can swing 50, 60 points, even 100 points one direction or another with very limited impact on the trade, and looking to have some decay happen to get our 6, 7, 10% over a period of a month or two pulled out of this. And this is where I'm going to continue to focus, is this sort of trade. Again, this one got a little close to expiration, and it was more of a condor. So when we got the pullback in this, I had to react. I had to protect against the downside, which is what caused this wing to lower and gave us the problem on the upside. So that is it for our weekend update here on Sunday, February 25th. Take care, everyone.